Am I ready to buy a home? When is someone ready to buy a home? I mean, the whole world is changing. Should people even buy homes? I'm going to get a lot of heat for that. Like, really, what's going on?
I think it's a good thing to buy a home. You know, you got to really sit down and think about if you're financially able to buy a home. Obviously, the first step to buy a home is get pre-qualified. But before that, you really want to think about, you know, are you willing to stay in this home for a couple of years? You know, you can always rent the home as well. And also, like, are you willing to dish out money on a rental property? Or do you just want to invest that on your own equity in your own house and build some equity?
Yeah, so you mean people obviously can either buy an investment property and then like rent, or buy a home they're going to live in?
Right.
Well, why can't you just buy a property that has like multiple units and live in it?
You can do that as well. You can, you know, I have a lot of clients that, you know, buy a duplex and live one side and then have the other side being rented.
What are some of the benefits of buying a duplex and living in it and then renting? Like,
well, so, you know, you got to really sit down and do you want to live next to somebody, or do you just want a single family home? Then the benefit is obviously you're going to save a lot more money because your mortgage is going to be less because the rental income is going to cover some of your mortgage, and you're going to pay less for mortgage. You know?
yeah, so like you're paying less to live, someone else is paying you rent,
right,
which helps with taxes. You also, it's going to appreciate eventually.
Absolutely.
Even if it does go down, it will go back up probably.
Right.
So, and that helps combat, I guess, you know, inflation and the interest that you're going to pay to the bank for getting a mortgage.
Right.
By renting something out.
Absolutely. And then, you know, not only that is once you have that duplex or whatever rental property, you can always go to something else and buy something for yourself and then just rent that one out and have your investment property right
Yeah,
there.
so you're saying like, I mean, even like nowadays, inflation is 2.7% on average, and it seems as though job growth and income growth hasn't really gone up, but it's kind of started to go down.
Right.
I'd be afraid. I'm like, all right, if I'm going to buy somewhere to live because I want a home, it sure as heck better be making me money.
Right, right.
Because I could always turn that into a full rental property later and buy a home I'll live in in the future.
Absolutely. So it really comes down to seeing if you're capable of buying. Also, I have a lot of friends that ask me, you know, they're at the age, you know, some of my friends are 25, 26, 27, 28. Should I buy or should I keep renting? And I tell them, hey, you know, if you are able to buy and you really know that you're going to stay around for a couple of years, I suggest just buying. You know, interest rates are really low right now.
Yeah, they're giving it away.
I mean, interest rate is 4 to 5%, whatever the case is. You know, you're paying the same amount on. You would be paying the same amount on mortgage and rent. Like, so if you're paying $1,200 on rent, you can buy a house and pay $1,200 in your own mortgage, and but you have a house. You're putting money towards your own equity.
So you got to make a decision, like if you're going to stay somewhere a certain amount of time.
Right.
Because if you go through the process of owning, and now you kind of have that where it's not exactly paying you every day.
Right.
You got to pay it. So the pros is you're not giving to a landlord.
Right.
And obviously the other pro is you own something that can appreciate and most likely will. The question is, does it appreciate greater than the interest on a loan and the inflation? That's what you got to think about.
That's what you got to think about.
And also you got to think about your real life. Like, are you going to move in 2 years?
Right.
Are you going to be flying around? But if you're not going to move, if you're going to stay put, you should probably buy a house.
You should probably buy a house, yeah.
And what about Philly? Like, too, Philly's changing.
Philly's changing, the market's changing. You know, I have a lot of clients right now that are asking me the same question. Should I buy? Should I stay, you know, in my apartment for a couple of years? And I tell them, hey, you know, if you're going to stay around, you're going to be in the city, you're still, or wherever the suburbs, and if you're still working, you're planning to make money, and you're planning to have a house, you know, why not make it your own house? Why not put all that, you know, $12,000 to $18,000 of rent towards your own?
And you got to look at Philadelphia as, so there's like the micro, the macro, the national. Nationally, you know, interest is cheap, money's cheap nationally, like, right? Macro, the city is like changing.
Absolutely.
Like, it's going up in value as a city. People are coming here, jobs, or at least wealth is coming here.
Yeah.
And it's increasing the value of the homes.
Absolutely.
The question is it keep going? Obviously, we can't always tell the future. But it seems that, like, shoot, if people bought 5 years ago, they would have done really well.
Right.
Correct?
Absolutely. Especially
like right now.
Fishtown, you know, different areas.
Everything's appreciating.
It's appreciating. You know, I know people that bought Northern Liberties about 10, 15 years ago. Northern Liberties, as we know, it's going up like a lot.
Because you got to look at the city that you live in. Is the city that you live in a quote unquote it's like a company, right?
Right.
It should have a vision of where it's going, how it's going to get there, and daily, like, all right, how is it, like, what is affecting it nationally? Like, for example, a lot of people from New York, a lot of money from New York has been coming here for years now. Because New York is like a global city.
It is.
Meaning, you know that 40% of the real estate in New York is owned by Chinese?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, like, the Harvard grad that gets a Wall Street job isn't necessarily investing their money in New York City. They're investing it in Philly.
Yeah.
And they started 10 years ago.
Absolutely.
So imagine, it was like, it's Philadelphia is like buying Apple stock before the iPod.
Yes, I mean it's a good.
It was and it still is.
It still is, and I think it's a good market right now here in Philly, and you can definitely. I have a lot of clients that have a portfolio of they started with 2, 3, 4 rental properties, and now they're all the way up to 10, 15, 20 rental properties within 10 years. So
they're doing well.
They're doing pretty well.
And as long as the cash flow is greater than, or the income is greater than the expenses, they have good cash flow.
Absolutely.
Good return investment.
It obviously has to make sense as far as the numbers, and you have to have a certain amount of equity just in case things happen or whatever the case is. But yeah, I mean, if you can rent it for a certain amount, and if you can cover your mortgage, and maybe you can get a little extra after it covers all the expenses, and every month it does make sense.
Let's say people don't want to be an investor; they just want a place to live. Yeah. Should they buy in Philly right now?
If they just want a place to live and they don't know if they're staying in the city or whatever, doing whatever, I'm not sure that you want to buy. Like a decision to buy, if you want to buy to stay here, yeah, you should buy. But if you're not really sure what you're doing, if you want to move to Cali, or if you don't know what you're doing, then maybe it's not the time for you to buy. Maybe you should think about it, or maybe stay in an apartment for another year or wherever you live in.
Figure out what you want.
And maybe you want to invest later. But I do definitely suggest on investing in real estate and buying some type of property, in at least like 25 to 30, because that same property. Time flies. In 10 years, it's going to be your property. You could rent it out, and you could even sell it and maybe get more money later. But it just makes sense to buy. Really
There's a lot of wealthy people who say nowadays you should rent where you live and own what you rent.
Yeah.
To that point, we got to remember that all of us are on a different journey. We don't all need to own the mega company or have the mega wealth. We don't need that. And we may find our wealth in different sectors, different industries, different path. So you got to figure out, based on you, not me or anybody else, or this guy talking, the quotes, so you see the memes on Instagram, who you are, what you want based on who you are, and then write down a strategic how you're going to get there.
Yeah, basically. And if you have any questions, obviously, you have to have someone that can guide
Carlos, the agent.
Yeah, I mean, I can guide you anytime, or anybody else, but just if you want to invest in your future, if you want to eventually own a couple properties, I don't think it's bad to own a house. Some people overthink it. I have a couple clients or just friends that are overthinking the fact of owning. It's like, should I do it? I'm not sure. If you're not sure, don't do it. But if you really want to profit later on, buying something now could definitely benefit you in the long run later on.
Yeah.
And you can own a couple properties,